This should be played at high volume.
Welcome to High Volume, where we're trying to give you a look behind the horseshoe, and I think we got a good one for you today. I want to say thank you to everyone watching on YouTube today. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Those go a long way. Also, everyone on the Colts Audio Network and Colts.com. Thank you for watching, and don't forget the other podcast, the Colts Show. I mean, you don't want to miss this. Everybody, I've seen people coming in here in the last 2 weeks, Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, and a host of players. So be sure to check out one of our podcasts, and you find out more information at Colts.com. I love this man. I'm just going to come out and say it right now. I work with this man. He's part of our pregame radio. He's been doing it for a lot of years. In a pinch, he's been a color commentator on radio and television as well. And I'll tell you what, He gave quite a bit on the football field for the Indianapolis Colts, but the story behind this man is why I'm talking to you today. It really is incredible, because this is like a guy that I can have fun with and poke fun at. But at the end of the day, Joe Reitz we bring in. Joe Reitz, you're one of the greatest athletes to ever play in the state of Indiana. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that is true. You've had a storied career in college in basketball and decided to flip the switch and say, hey, maybe I'll give professional football a crack, and you did that for nearly 10 years. Joe, welcome in.
Well, Gorman, thanks for sharing your love for me, because obviously you say a lot of bad things about me on the pregame show, which I like to throw those right back at you. But yeah, when you talk about that, I was so lucky because I got to live out both my dreams in terms of, playing college basketball. You grew up here in the state of Indiana, and I was recruited by both football and basketball for different colleges. But, you watch the movie Hoosiers when you're 7 years old, 8 and 9, and you just love hoops. And also all these colleges were recruiting me to be an offensive lineman. And I was like, I don't want to be some fat 300-pound lineman. I'll go play college basketball, get my degree, which I did at Western Michigan University. And, met my wife Jill up there and had a great 4 years, was blessed to come into a good opportunity. I got to start all 4 years, and we had some really good teams there. And then I had the chance to basically try out for the NFL. And so I laugh because I didn't become the 300-pound fat offensive lineman. I weighed about 320 for most of my career. And after 2 years in Baltimore, 2 great years, came in with John Harbaugh. Joe Flacco's in our draft class, so it was great to reconnect with Joe when he was here in Indy last year. Tom Zibikowski from Notre Dame, Ray Rice, and then all the personalities you have in the Baltimore locker room. My locker was right next to Ed Reed, and then you're looking there, there's Ray Lewis, and I'm thinking, shoot, I was playing against Kent State and Miami of Ohio a month ago, and now I'm lacing up my cleats and trying to block Terrell Suggs. What is going on? And it took me 2 years on the practice squad. I gained 60 pounds in 6 months. I kind of relearned football. And then finally in my 3rd year, when I really felt like I was good enough to be on the 53-man roster, unfortunately, it didn't work out in Baltimore. I got cut. I fly down to Miami, and the Dolphins are like, hey, we love you. Bill Parcells is the football czar at the time. He brings me in his office. We watched all your film. We got a great plan for you. And I'm like, this is great. We're going to start our lives here in Miami together. And then I got cut from the Dolphins 2 days later. And I'm thinking, was I that bad at one practice that I got cut? But it was a roster. They needed somebody. They needed a kick returner for week 1. And I was 53 of 53. And while I'm getting ready to fly back to Baltimore with the palm trees in the background and pick up the pieces of my life, I got a call at the 11th hour from the Colts. And they had claimed me on waivers. Instead of flying northeast of Baltimore, I flew back to the Midwest, baby. And the rest is history. Was able to stay here for 7 years and play on some really, really great football teams and be a part of kind of that Colts period of greatness that was here for so many that I grew up watching as a kid. So it was a dream. I got to live both my dreams. And I was so fortunate, and my wife and I are just so thankful that I was able to be here in Indy playing for the Horseshoe for 7 years.
Because those kids, Joe, those kids that are playing football in the street today, they all want to grow up and wear that horseshoe. You were one of those kids. That's why I wanted you on today. You talked about your career at Western Michigan. You're weighing offers coming out of Hamilton Southeastern High School to play basketball. Your offers from the MAC came in. Where were your football offers coming out of Hamilton Southeastern?
A lot of MAC schools, and then Indiana had offered me. Purdue offered me.
Okay.
Yeah, Purdue offered me kind of a preferred walk-on, so I had a little bit of Big Ten interest. But again, all these schools were recruiting me to come play offensive line, and hoops was really my first love, slightly ahead of football, and so said, well, I'll go play college basketball, and then lo and behold, I got scouted to play, and like I said, that was the story.
listen, the college basketball, we're not just going to glance and gloss over this. This is a 4-year starter, you at Western, playing in the MAC, the Mid-American Conference, good basketball conference.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming out of Hamilton Southeastern. You start 4 years. You're all MAC your senior year. You average basically about 16 points a game, 8 rebounds, 9 rebounds a game. And there is no dedication to football for those 4 years in Kalamazoo. It's all basketball. Who was the first person, that season's kind of coming to an end, your senior year, that says, hey, Joe, you're athletic, you're a big guy, we think we can make something of you? Like, who was that first person that said, hey, why don't we give this professional football a shot?
Yeah, it was a guy, Lanil Vital. He was in pro personnel for the Ravens, and our MAC tournaments in Cleveland where the Cavs played. Basically, my junior year saw me play, calls my coach. He's like, hey, this guy, he's got quick feet, he's got big shoulders, and he's got a big backside, right? That's their way of saying, hey, we think this guy can translate to a lineman. My coach said, well, he's got a football background. He's a physical player. He's angry a lot of times in practice, and I think that interested them. So they kept an eye on me my senior year. And so when it came to draft time, I wasn't drafted, obviously, but signed as an undrafted free agent with the Ravens. I got $2,000, Gorman. I'm rolling. I'm thinking, hey, worst case, I buy myself a laptop. I go out there and I stink and they cut me. And I was just trying to make it a week, trying to make it a month, trying to make it a year. And I ended up lasting 2 years in Baltimore and then 7 at the Colts. But I tell people this when I talk to kids, I share this story. I didn't play in a real NFL game, right? Stay with me. A real game. It was 3 years, 4 months, and 10 days from the time I signed as an undrafted free agent with the Ravens till I played in my first game. I earned a starting job my 4th year, and I started September 11th, 2011. I'll never forget it, right? It's the 10-year anniversary of 9/11.
Yes.
We're playing down in Houston. Peyton, unfortunately, that's when he was hurt. We thought he was coming back like 3 games later. Kerry Collins is in the pocket, and fans will remember this. They had like a live tribute of all the NFL teams. So they were flashing from Green Bay to Baltimore to Houston, showing all the players. And it was just a memory I'll never forget. I got tears streaming down my face and just kind of a culmination of all the work that's been going to, and hey, I finally made it and I'm going to start and I'm going to play. Now, that left really quick because I gave up a sack like the 3rd play of the game. And then I go from crying thinking like, okay, I'm all emotional about the chance to start. Now I'm like, I'm not going to get back on this plane. It's going to be my first start. I'm going to be one and done. But was able to kind of grind through that year, and it wasn't a great year team-wise. Again, we didn't win our first game till December 18th. We were 0-13, but that 2-14 year brought Andrew Luck, and I had 5 great years playing with Andrew when we went to the playoffs 3 times, made it to the AFC Championship game. So just a ton of great memories, but more important than that, a ton of great people, right? And when you think about all the players I was fortunate to play with for the blue and white, all the guys in the Ring of Honor, all the Hall of Famers and future Hall of Famers, there was just this standard of excellence that I was able to come in on and say, oh, well, this is how Peyton does it. This is how Saturday does it. This is how Dallas Clark does it. This is how Robert Mathis and Freeney do it. This is what I should do. And it made for a lot of success on the field, but a lot of great relationships in the locker room and off the field as well.
Joe, who made you a better player? Some teammates, like you mentioned Terrell Suggs and getting whooped by him. I know that sounds funny and everything, but obviously that did help you because you had some quite a bit of hurdles trying to make that transition from basketball to football. And like you said, it took over 3 years for you to officially get your first start. Who are those players? I know coaches were important, but those players that took you around after practice and said, you're close, you're very close, but you got to do this.
Yeah, and I would say the 2 biggest mentors I had were Matt Burke in Baltimore and then Jeff
good
Saturday.
Player. Yeah.
And Matt Burke was so great, so good to me as a veteran, won the Super Bowl in Baltimore after playing a decade with the Vikings. But then the Ravens defense, you're thinking about, you got Terrell Suggs and Ray Lewis and Bart Scott and Haloti Ngata and Trevor Price and Ed Reed and Chris McAllister. It's just Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer. So I'm going in practice, and every day I'm coming home and crying to myself. I'm like, I can't do this. These guys are unbelievable. And then you realize not everybody's the Hall of Fame Ravens defense. I'm like, okay, maybe I can play. And then I came to Indy, and Jeff Saturday was great to me. But then there were 2 guys, oh, by the way, Robert Mathis on the right and Freeney on the left. And I tell you what, just from practicing against those guys gave me so much confidence because I'm like, if I can kind of hold my own against Rob and Dwight, I can do okay on Sundays. And you know what? Those 2 guys were so good to me in terms of, hey, you're oversetting me. You're undersetting me. You're being too aggressive. You're not being aggressive enough. Those 2 guys helped me so much in terms of developing. And so after that third year in the NFL, which I was on the practice squad most of the year in Indy, I felt like I was good enough to kind of earn a starting job. And then that next year I did. I won the starting left guard job in camp. And I'm like, I'm going to be blocking for Peyton Manning. We're going to the Super Bowl. This is a dream come true. And unfortunately, he was out all year. And again, that year was kind of rough. But for me personally, I grew a lot. And again, I was ready to kind of move on to the next era, the Andrew Luck era, and be a part of that and be a part of his greatness for 5 years.
Let's concentrate on you. We're going to go to back to some teammates in a minute, but you played everywhere other than the center position, really. Played inside at the guard, outside on both tackles and stuff. Was that challenging for you? Because it is a different position to play, but especially with a guy who's, trying to play this level of professional football and having, just like you said, 3 years to learn it. Where were you most comfortable?
Yeah, I would say I was most comfortable early in my career at left guard and then late at right tackle. Those are the two positions I had the most starts, but I also started at right guard. I started at left tackle for 3 games. I used to give Costanzo a hard time. I'm like, this isn't that hard. You know what I'm saying? I played well my first couple of games. Then we went up against the Steelers, a guy named James Harrison. I had a tough night.
Oh,
all right, Costanzo, let's get back from this injury here, buddy. Get back here so I can go back to the right side. But that was kind of my calling card with the Colts, right? The coaches could count on me, my teammates could count on me to know what I was going to do, prepare well, and be able to play kind of anywhere on the offensive line. I also got to start, a couple of games we started out in like jumbo personnel. So I'm the offensive lineman. You come in. Gorman, you get credit in the books for a start for those days. So I got a couple starts at tight end in my career.
Okay.
How about that?
How about that? I didn't even know that. Good scoop on that. Talking to Joe Reitz, one of the greatest athletes the state of Indiana has ever produced. I'm going to go on. When you said the Colts came calling, obviously it was the end of the connection with the Colts and Peyton Manning. But they bring a quarterback #1 in overall in Andrew Luck. And I just want to stay there for a minute. When you saw this guy, when you met him for the first time, you saw the presence that he had and the command of the huddle, but you also saw him in the locker room. When did you know that he was special?
You knew he was special in just how he communicated in the locker room when he first met you. And, again, I sent him a text after the draft and he calls you back, the next day and talks to you and he's apologizing. Hey, sorry, I couldn't get back to you sooner. I'm like, hey, you just got drafted, buddy. It's all good. But our very first OTA, the very first time we're on the grass. And again, this is the off season, the mood's a little bit lighter. So we're in the, we're running through a play and it's about, 80%. So we're kind of joking around on the field in the huddle. And he walks in and all of a sudden he puts his hand on somebody's chest and he says, hey, this is my huddle. I'm the only one that talks in the huddle. And we're like looking around.
Whoa.
Like, okay, this dude's got it. Like you just
Joe,
leadership. Very first.
First practice, somebody was talking in Luck's huddle, and he gently put his hand on his chest and said, sorry, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and it wasn't gentle, right? And he was firm in what he said. And that's where you say, okay, this guy's 22, but he gets it, right? He understands it. Okay, we're going to follow this guy into battle, and this is our leader. And, he just had that presence about him. He had that maturity about him and that leadership. He was special for sure.
Hey, I want to go into a couple of games that you were part of. The KC comeback to 28 points down. You didn't start that game. I know you had a little bit of action, if memory serves. What was that one? You were watching greatness there with that young man early in his career to come back in a playoff game down 28. Again, you're right down the locker rows from Andrew Luck, and that's a game that still goes down as an NFL instant classic. What was that like to be a part of?
Yeah, it was wild. And I mean, we go down and we throw the pick coming out of the second half and it's 38-10. And Colts fans are leaving. Chiefs fans are getting really loud. And then we scored and we scored again. And when it got to 38-24, I'm not gonna lie. When it was 38-10, was I like, yeah, we're gonna win this game? No chance. But when it got to 38-24 and feeling the momentum, I'm like, we're winning this game. I'm like, if we can hold him under 45, which we ended up doing 44, the defense was great, 2 field goals. I'm like, we're going to win this game, and we did. And you just think about that comeback, where that was. I mean, it was unbelievable. That's when we got a huge snowstorm too, like in Indy. And I mean, I just remember it was like everybody was at home, and that's all they had to do was just talk about that game and that comeback. And that was awesome because, I think a lot of times in the NFL, you got to take your lumps in the playoffs. In that first year, we lost in the first round. Second year, then we beat Kansas City, and then we lost. And then that third year, which was my favorite year playing with the Colts, is to the AFC Championship game. I mean, but we had to build to work up there, right? And we had to kind of take our lumps a little bit to get there to be able to, beat the Broncos and beat Peyton, which was obviously a special memory.
That is where I want to stay, because that following year is when you guys did beat the Broncos and Peyton Manning. You started that game, Joe Reitz. What's it like? You've got the sheriff. Everybody was up in the air. What to do with Peyton, the injury, Luck coming in #1 overall. Jim Irsay, is he going to sign Peyton again and draft Luck? Everyone's scratching their head. We saw what happened, the release of Peyton Manning. He goes to Denver. He comes back into this barn that he built. The emotions around that game, you guys ended up winning that game, but boy, oh boy, to be a part of that, a game you started, the memories of that day, if you could just kind of convey to us what that was like, because, Joe, this is a guy you watched growing up play for your hometown football team named Peyton Manning.
Yeah, and I mean, so really the two memories I have about playing against Peyton now, right, is that first one is when Denver came to Indy, right?
Yep.
And it's Sunday Night Football. And I mean, it was such a circus. I mean, it felt like an AFC championship type game in terms of the media and everything.
Sure.
So as a player, you kind of just wanted to get to Sunday night. And, we beat them. I think it was 39-33. Robert Mathis with the famous strip sack of Peyton in the end zone. Rob talked all week like, I just want to get 18. I just want to get 18. I want to get it. And he sure did. And, so we beat those guys. This is 2013. But then, you turn around the next year in 2014 when we play them in the playoffs. They're the 1 seed. We're playing in Denver. Nobody's picking us. We're like 10-point underdogs.
Yeah.
Nobody gives the Colts any chance. They got this young quarterback, and they got a bunch of ragtag guys on the offensive line. And, we did it with just a bunch of guys. T.Y. Hilton, and Jack Doyle and Boom Herons, our running back.
Sure.
And, I mean, it was just we just grinded, right? It was just a gritty performance. And to beat Denver, there is nothing better as a player than going into an opposing team's stadium, let alone in the playoffs where they're yelling all kinds of stuff about you and your mom and throwing stuff on the field. And late in the fourth quarter, the 2-minute warning is dead quiet, right? And we're the ones that are celebrating. And that game and that memory, that plane ride home, knowing that you're 1 game away from getting to the Super Bowl, I mean, that's something that I'll never forget. People often ask me, what's the best part of the NFL?
Yeah.
And question I say, it's a road win, the plane ride home, because it's all you got. It's just you. There's nothing you got to do. You're not worried about the next opponent yet. Coaches aren't yelling at you about film and getting better yet. And, they loosen up a little bit of, getting in and out of your seat. You got a little bit more room than you do on a commercial flight, and they're bringing ice cream up and down the aisles. It's just the memories, the laughter, that camaraderie. That's no doubt the memory that I miss probably the most. An away game victory, those plane rides home.
Joe, a lot of people in Indianapolis see you out on the town. They know you from your Colts media career. Obviously, they know you for your Colts playing career. But it's got to be fun. That's the moral of this story is you're one of a kind. And you're one of a kind because so many young men and women are out playing in the street, shooting baskets, whatever it is, playing lacrosse, want to play for their hometown team. Something that you did. What a great example for that. And I know you got a house full of kids right now. Do you have athletes, you and your wife?
I think so. My wife, Jill, she was a MAC champ, track 1,500 meters. She's a better athlete than me. And, my kids, just like me, right? I want to play in the NBA. I want to play in the NFL. But I say, I hear you. It takes a lot of work, and being 6'7" helps for sure. But, Peyton Manning came to the Colts when I was 13. And I watched this town go from a Pacers town to a Colts town. And, one of my greatest memories is as a high school senior, we got together to watch Monday Night Football, and the Colts were on. And they're playing the Bucks, and they're down 21 points with 5 minutes left. Oh, by the way, they come back and win that game. People remember that in 2003. And so I got to follow them. I was in college celebrating the Colts winning the Super Bowl. Then I go to the NFL, and I'm with the Ravens. And my second year in Baltimore, we played the Colts in the playoffs. So 2009, the year the Colts go to the Super Bowl and lost to the Saints.
Vinatieri's game.
So I'm back in Indy, and I get like 20 tickets for friends and family. And I'm like, hey, look, here's the rules. I know you might like the Colts, but these are in the Baltimore ticket block. You better be wearing purple. At least don't be wearing blue and white. And I think some of my family agreed to it. Some of them probably didn't. So that was a weird feeling. And then all of a sudden the next year I'm back in Indy, and I got to play for my hometown. It's something that so few guys get to do. But I think, Gorman, you hit on it. Indianapolis is such a special community. The fans are so great. I think about like Chuck Strong in 2012 and how much this whole state rallied around Chuck. And still are, right? They just had the Chuck Strong Gala, and they're raising, tens of millions of dollars for cancer research. But Indianapolis, as people know, is a unique community with unique people and great fans. And so that's why I'm glad that we chose to raise our family here. I still get to, be a part of the Colts, media and talk about the games and make fun of you and your outfits on Sunday morning. So, which we have a lot of fun about. But Indy's a special place, and I've been so fortunate to experience as a fan, as a
Yeah.
player, and now part of the Colts radio network, hopefully, having a lot of fun with the fans that are watching.
Absolutely. After your post-career career, if you will, you're involved in the financial trade. Obviously, a very smart man, all academic. Mac, when you were playing basketball at Western Michigan, but football is so unique, and the relationships that you spoke about, even the plane rides and stuff, you can't get that anywhere else. As much as we try on Sunday mornings pregame radio, it just nothing. It ills in comparison to that camaraderie that you have with those guys in that locker room and on the field. I just wanted to say hi to you. I wanted to tip my hat. I know I give you a lot of guff on the air and stuff like that, but you really are a rare bird, and you know this game inside out. That's what I'm most impressive. The physical, obviously, very impressive, but your mind and the way it works. Do you think you'll ever want to dive into coaching young men playing football? I say this because I'm not the only one that said this, Joe Reitz, but I know with a large family that you and your wife Jill have, I know it's tough, but has that ever come in your mind, coaching this game?
It has, but I think it'll just be with my kids, right? My son's in 5th grade, and I get to coach his team. And as he gets going and into high school, I'd love to coach, because I do believe that for men, right, and young men, there's no better game than the game of football in terms of teaching people about toughness and character and virtue and being part of a team. I mean, it's the greatest team game, and it's wonderful. So I think I got a lot of coaching and some youth leagues and maybe high school ahead of me. But I was lucky to play for a lot of great coaches too, and a lot of those are still around and still in the NFL. And there's a standard here in Indy that's a great one. And for me, I'm just excited, right? You start to think about this year's team, and I think we did a lot of great things in free agency, and we got a lot of young talent. We need a little bit of lady luck, and we need some work and stuff. But I really think that the Colts can be one of those surprise teams in the NFL, right? And this is what I've been telling everybody. Every year, about a third of the teams reset in the playoffs, right?
Sure.
And so why not in, right? We got a young core, we got people, we got increased competition in a lot of spots. And so it'll be a lot of fun, with the draft coming up, and then to get this team rolling and get us out here. And it'll be September before we know it, Gorman.
All right, well, let's do a little sort of preview for the Colts fans watching out there. Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen came right out and said, this quarterback position, it is a competition. If you could just give me your take on that, what we're looking at between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson in finding this starting quarterback here in Indy.
Yeah, I'm glad, because I think, competition, it brings out the best in everybody, and that's cliche, but it's so true, right? There were years when you're competing with somebody and one of you guys is starting and one of you is not. Well, you better bring it every single day, and that's going to bring out the best in AR5. That's going to bring out the best in Daniel Jones. Two different guys, but still some similar playing types. So I think is nice for Shane, that you can run the same type of offense. And I'm looking forward to the competition like everybody else. I think it'll probably get overblown a little bit in the spring, but when you get into training camp, every single rep matters. And I think that's what's going to be great, is every practice matters. The Colts do joint practices, those preseason games, but then also you got depth at the position. And we've seen that Richardson, we've seen that across the board, but so to have two really good quality candidates there will be awful exciting. But as you know, this is a quarterback league. And so we're going to need one of those guys to step up and lead this team, and not only on the field, but galvanize the other 52 guys in the locker room. And I can only speak from my experience with Peyton and Andrew, but I mentioned that those are guys that you would follow them into battle, right? And you would do whatever you had to do to protect that quarterback. And so, I'm looking forward to one of these guys taking the reins, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch and unfold as this, training camp gets rolling up at Grand Park, and we get into the Labor Day and the season.
Well, he's on our pregame huddle before every Colts game. You'll see him up at training camp as well. He does work for this club even after his playing career is done. He's one of the best in the business. And, Joe, I like to just say this to people out there watching. You're not a better basketball player than Joe Reitz, and you're not a better football player than Joe Reitz. You can't say that about a lot of people. So tip of the hat to you, man. I tell you what, you're a rare bird, bro. You're a rare bird.
Well, I appreciate that, and I know I like to make fun of you, and I'll continue to do that often throughout this season.
Please do.
No,
yes.
Appreciate you having me on.
I will see you out at camp and again on the pregame huddle. Joe Reitz, one of the best in the business, a great guy, and obviously has a story that's unique, unlike any others. I mean, you know, the young boy who's playing for his hometown club, stuff like that. Not only does it in one sport, but he's great in two sports. So that's what we want to bring you here on High Volume, a little look behind the scenes of the greats that have worn the horseshoe or worked for the horseshoe, and Joe Reitz is obviously one of them. Appreciate you watching, everyone on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Colts.com has all the latest, and of course on the Colts Audio Network. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time. This has been High Volume. We'll be coming at you more in the weeks to come. Thanks for watching.
This should be played at high volume.